It is like 2:30 in the morning. I work midnights, so my weekends consist of me sometimes not being able to sleep, and I'm up all night. And so I wanted to make a video while trying to keep my voice down as little as possible. I'm trying to keep my voice down as much as possible. My daughter is in the next room trying to sleep, and my wife is in another room across the way trying to sleep. But I've been wanting to make a video like this for a while to showcase my desk. It's finally been clean enough to actually make a video about it. And the video I wanted to make is short, sweet, and condensed and to the point about the tools that I use to do repairs. Now, you probably don't see, I don't do public repairs on camera whenever I do them. Number one, I don't have the time to do them. I don't have the time to make the videos to do them. The main reason why is because I'm a dad, I'm a husband. I do a lot of things for the church that we go to. And so trying to handle all of those, plus I work a 40-hour week, 40-hour week job on top of all of the other things that I juggle. So my time is very, very limited. So without further ado, I still like to do YouTube and I still like to make videos. I wanted to showcase these particular pieces that I use, and these are main pieces that I use specifically for fixing electronics, testing, and of the like, and of the sort. So we'll get right into this. So right away, the first piece that I like to show is my microscope. This is a cheaper amscope. I'm not really sure what the model of it was. I think it was like a pretty much whatever the cheapest one at Amazon is, I would assume. But it originally had a base, and you can actually see it in some of my other videos. It has a cord that comes out, plugs into the wall. It had a light on it that, it was, I don't know what kind of light it was, but it wasn't an LED light. It was like, I took like a bulb. It wasn't very good for doing any sort of electronic work, because you really want to have some LEDs that you're doing stuff with. It's very bright, and you know, you get the point. But anyways, having a gigantic base that I would move around and things like that just is not very beneficial, not very practical. So I had this idea. My dad had given me a desk mount for a microphone stand. So like a corner microphone stand, which you can see over here. Well, this one actually just, you put some screws in it and it mounts directly to the desk itself. Well, I was thinking about at work one night when I was working some long hours of taking the pull off that came out of the base and putting it in here. It has a set screw in this, so it holds it in really nice. And I was thinking about some sort of bolting things if it didn't fit directly in the hole or something like that. And the Lord specifically worked that out to where this basically the pole fit directly into the base, and it worked perfectly. And so I went ahead, removed the base, stuck it right in there, set screwed it in, and it worked perfectly. Now, if you go back to the video that I made of the Xbox One HDMI port repair, which is doing very well with the views, I'm very proud of that video, very nice. I originally was having, I had a lot smaller of a desk. I realized that wasn't going to work out, and I had to go back to my bigger desk. We are in a lot smaller of a room in our house that I wanted to just use a smaller desk. I felt like that was going to be good for us, but it really wasn't good for me because I need a bigger work area. I have a lot more tools and things like that I'd like to have more space for. Now, I have seen a lot of the more expensive amscope microscopes that they have more features that you can mount a camera on top of the unit. And then they have a zoom function that can zoom in on an area. So if you're looking through the microscope, you can see your image, but then you can actually zoom in on that image down even lower, which is a wonderful feature. Unfortunately, this one does not have that, and I think it would be very beneficial if this one did, but unfortunately it doesn't. But with the limited funds and the limited time I have, this is what I have to work with, which is just fine. It gets the job done, and I have no complaints. It's like owning a Toyota like Camry versus like a luxury car, a luxury vehicle, whatever a luxury vehicle would be, an SUV, I don't know, something. It's like owning a Ford Escort versus owning like a brand new 2020 Ford Taurus, and something like that. Whatever you want to make the comparison to, but it gets the job done. It gets from point A to point B, and I can do electronic work, no problem with it. I can work on cell phones. I can do charging ports, HDMI ports, any sort of chips or any sort of components on any other boards. It does the job just fine. I'd say the only issue that I've had was doing a trace one time. I was having an issue with my brother-in-law's PS4 board where I could not get 1080p video out of the PS4. It would only do 480p and 1080i. Then I found a broken trace right out of the HDMI port that I didn't notice. And once I repaired that, then I had 1080p and all was well. So now I did find the trace with this microscope, but the problem is I couldn't see it. But if I would have had that zoom function, I probably could have noticed that broken trace, and it was so close that you could hardly tell that it was broken. I mean, it was so minuscule, microscopic, very, very small. Well, anyway, long story short, this microscope has done a great job, and I really like it, really do enjoy it. One of the really amazing features about having it set up this way, where it's stationary, is I understand I can't move it back forth this way, but if I'm working here, I can swing it out of the way. Now understand, it being a cheaper microscope and this being the alternative to a $600 amscope, this is completely fine for the type of work I'm doing, because now I have all this space that I can work. If I need to come back to something, I can go right back, look and see what I need to do, and go from there. So the next item on our list is my soldering iron. This is I'll be honest with you, a must-have as a soldering iron. Now, I'm not going to go into detail specifically about the brand because that doesn't really matter a whole lot. It does a little bit, but when you're getting into Pace, Hakko, JBC, and Weller, and all those different brands, people have their choice, just like they have a choice between a Smith & Wesson and a Taurus, or as far as guns go, or if they have a choice between different cars. Some have better features than others, and some some are better than others, so there's not a huge difference. They both get the job done. They both go from point A to point B. The one specific, like for instance, this Pace station that I have and that I use, it's really convenient. It's really small and compact. Maybe the Hakko is a little bit smaller, but a lot of the Hakko units, a lot of them, not going to say all of them, a lot of them have the power switch on the back. I have noticed that. The Pace doesn't. Pace has it on the front. And that's a thing that a friend of mine that pointed out to me about his Hakko station. He also uses a Pace ADS 200 like I have here. The Pace ADS 200 is a great iron. It uses removable tips like here. So here's a conical tip that I use in specific. I don't know how well the camera is going to focus in on this. I'm just using my phone as a camera this evening. So you can hot swap the tips, so you can put it in. And the one wonderful thing about this iron is that it's very, very close to your work area. So your board is right here, and you're very, very close to it. Instead of having your hand back here on an iron where you're back here, having that extended reach, you're right close up and personal with what you're doing. And it's almost like, I don't know, like writing with a pencil. It's write with a pencil back here, and then write with a pencil up here, and then you kind of get what I'm saying. And then the one really cool feature of this iron, which a lot of irons do have, is that you can use this piece while the iron is on and hot. You can actually grab it out and swap with a new tip, which is amazing. This iron has instant setback. However, I do not have the instant setback stand, which is fine. I just didn't have the extra money at the time when I bought the iron. I wanted to have some extra tips to buy because tips are expensive. I mean, if you're on a limited budget, understand that. But I mean, this was a must. I literally went from using this Chinese station as my iron, which is sort of like a Hakko 936 clone, which I used to have a Hakko 936 that my dad gave me when I was about 14, and I used that for a long time. But once I finally got rid of all of that, and then I had gotten this. I didn't get rid of the Hakko, but I quit using the Hakko because I thought it was more convenient to have an all-in-one station. But this is me being young and I'm not really understanding how all this worked. But then a good friend of mine convinced me to get the ADS-200, and once I got it, I was so shocked. It was like a night and day difference. The heat up times ready to go temperature. This is from off cold. You see me grab the tip, going up to probably either 700 to 750 degrees. This is how fast it goes. And now we're at operating temperature already. And that is how fast it's good to go, ready to go. So pretty much I bring a board in here, take it apart, get it ready to go. I pull the port off, however, and I go to prep the board. I wasn't sure about the time, but around 7 or 10 seconds, and I'm ready to go, ready to solder, already done, ready to go. No waiting times, none of that. And I can hot swap the tips too. It's not like I have to unscrew the iron or wait for it to cool down to unscrew it to swap the tips. It's just so much more convenient, and it's worth the money. It's worth it. So there's that. Now, as far as the hot air station, I have wanted to get a quick station, but because of funds and just not sure of the direction I wanted to go, I've stuck with this one, and in all honesty, this station does exactly what it needs to do. It gets hot and it removes a port or a component or a chip or whatever you're doing. It removes it decently fast. It really doesn't matter a whole lot. Now I do understand the night and day difference between like a quick station or a Hakko station, depending on what you're looking for. I understand it's a cheap Chinese clone of a hot air station, or just a Chinese hot air station, which is fine. It gets the job done, and that's fine with that. As far as hot air goes, I haven't had any issues. I think that this is fine and sufficient as far as that goes. So for doing any sort of chips or doing HDMI ports or anything like that, that is more than sufficient and will do the job. But for doing work that is very tedious and very particular, like an HDMI port or a USB port on a cell phone or things like that, that you need to have a very good soldering iron for that. Something that is going to be very particular and that's going to be quality. The hot air is hot air, and it's fine, but the soldering iron has to be precise, and that I think is more valuable to me than that, because hot air is hot air, and the iron is very particular and precise. Same thing like the microscope. Originally, before I used a microscope, this is what I used right here. Magnifying glass. This is how I did HDMI ports and very, very small components on cell phones. Not ideal. You can do it, but I'll be honest, when I went from this to this, it was a night and day difference. So I would just say I would get a really nice soldering station if you can. If you can afford one, get a decent soldering station if you're doing any amount of electronic work. Even if it's just home hobby stuff, having a good station literally will be a night and day difference. So one of the features I did not cover with my custom microscope mount and things like that is the light on it. One of the things that I did is I went ahead and I modified the original light that came with the unit. The cord is just going to a USB right into a wall plug at the other end under my desk. On the other end, now this is where it gets rather complicated, but you could make something and build something yourself like I did. I went up to Family Dollar here in town, and I bought one of those camping lights that have like 6 LEDs on one side, and then on the side it has like 3 LEDs. I took that apart, and then I wired it to 5 volts because it took 3 AAAs, which ends up being about 4.5 volts, which is fine. And so all in all, it has the button here, and that I mounted with some zip ties, which is fine. It works just fine, no issues. I mounted it to the original where the light would kind of mount in here. Just mounted it to that, and then I can just move the light wherever, however I want. Because generally, I have the board here and the port. If I'm doing an HDMI port, the legs of the port are on this side. So my light, I can move around here, this way or that way, and it works just fine. This is for more of a home hobbyist. I do professional work too, and this can be done. It's not a real luxurious car, but with the budget you have, that's based off of what you can do and where you can go. And in all honesty, in electronics work, you have endless possibilities of building your own stuff. So you don't have to go out and spend a whole lot of money on lighting options, even though, in my own personal opinion, I would rather have I guess they call it like a ring light, or however, I don't know a whole lot about them. But you can do different zones where you can light up the board in different areas around your microscope. I think that's a beautiful thing, but you can only do what you can with the amount of money that you have, and that's fine. But this works for me, and all of you out there, it might work for you, it might not. So you kind of go based off of that. The power supply I have here is a custom home built power supply. Originally, a friend of mine built it. So originally it's based off of a printer power supply that outputs around like 31 volts or something like that. And then it has a DC to DC buck converter with a variable knob here that you can vary the voltage. So I'll power it up here. So right off the bat, so I got it set at 5 volts now, but if I want to power a cell phone, it's really, 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 you have to be really gentle with it, because if you don't, you'll go right past 4.2 volts, or you'll go right below it, and it's really iffy there. But the amp meter is actually wired in, so you can actually measure amp draw on it too, which is super, super cool. This is a USB to USB that I actually pulled off of an Xbox One. I wired it up so it's like a pass-through. They both are connected to each other. So 5 volts comes out from the supply, or actually it's wired right to the output. So here's an output here that I have to, some banana jacks can fit in here, some leads that can come out if I'm actually like probing areas with voltage. Or I have the voltage coming out and going to here, I can plug stuff into. It was just easier to do it that way, very quick, very just convenient, and I just taped it along the side. It's fine, it stays there. But anyways, the power supply works great, and thank you, Ryan, for giving that to me. I do use it on occasion. It does help to do, small and different things like that. The next thing on my list is my multimeter. This is a benchtop multimeter that I was given as well. Originally, the meter that I have, which I do not know where it is right now, it's probably in my filing cabinet, but it's just a mobile meter. I don't even remember what the brand is, but it's a decent meter. But he offered this to me, and I was like, okay, no problem. And he gave me some leads with it, and so it does continuity, it does DC voltage, it does AC voltage, and it does a couple of other functions that I don't even know what it does. Pretty much the main things that I use it for is ohms, continuity, and voltage, because that's really all I need. That's really all a lot of hobbyists really need. It depends on what you're into, but that's all I need it for, and it works just fine. But that pretty much almost covers my entire bench as far as my equipment goes. As far as screens and monitors, I just have a monitor bench stand that clamps onto the desk, and then it's got sort of an articulating arm, I'm going to call it that they mount to. Generally, one would be for testing like a console with HDMI. Here's like a power lead for a PS4 or PS3, depending, or whatever takes this, which a lot of things do. And then I plan on having my computer set up over here with a wireless keyboard, so I don't have to have a keyboard on the desk. I realized at the beginning of the video that my glasses were all crooked and they're bent, and I'm not really sure how to fix them. I can fix this stuff. I can't fix these. Or my glasses. I can't fix my glasses. Anyway, but if you guys made it to the end of the video, leave a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. And hopefully it inspires you guys to really get the right equipment that you want to do home repairs. If you just want to fix your own stuff, that's really awesome, because it's like having a jack and some jack stands and a four-way at your house, and you just want to replace a tire. That's what it's like doing a charging port on your tablet, your cell phone, anything like that. A backlight repair on an iPhone, or an HDMI port on a PS4 or an Xbox One, or whatever you're doing. If you're working on a Nintendo Switch and you want to replace a charging IC or things like that, this is the equivalent of having a jack and jack stands, except who has this stuff at their house? I mean, I'm going to say a lot of people do, but not a lot of people do. Like the most common people, don't you generally have equipment that you can work on electronics with. Generally, people do have a jack and jack stands. But I'm speaking for the entire world, not for the community of people that actually work on electronics. But give and take, obviously. But thank you guys for sticking around till the end of the video. It was really nice to make it. It was wonderful to have the time to do it. It's going to be nice editing the video. But I definitely appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me. And you guys have a good rest of your day, night, evening. If you're watching this on your phone, computer, or tablet, or however, enjoy it. I'll see you guys.